You're with Julian on the Brown Notes and my incredible vaccination story. I am now in a very minute group, and also the farcical Freedom Day and why lockdowns are here to stay, rhyming as we go. I'm now in one of the smallest groups of people in Australia. I have had 2 vaccinations, yet I am not vaccinated, and I've got a medical exemption. How did this happen, do you ask? So, if you live in New South Wales, we've been under lockdown for 4 months. That lifted yesterday. And last Tuesday, I got my second jab. It took me 9 weeks from start to finish. And I was getting incredibly frustrated with the politicians and media saying, come on, G up, whatever. Do it faster. I tried. We all tried. You didn't have enough vaccines. You didn't roll them out fast enough. So anyway, after 9 weeks, I got my second one last week. Or so I thought. 2 days later, when I'd come down with this terrible flu, I felt awful on Thursday. My brother said to me, your vaccine doesn't count. Your vaccine won't work. And I had this thing in the back of my head that it wouldn't. And it turns out I was vaccinated too quickly. So basically, I had a phone call from the chief medical officer of a $6 billion company. So you know it was pretty bad news, telling me that for the first time in 900,000 vaccinations, they had vaccinated someone too quickly. I spent the whole morning phoning round to try and validate things that I was reading online, which is that the Pfizer vaccine doesn't really work if you have the first and second doses less than 3 weeks apart, ideally 4 weeks apart, not 11 days like me. And before you start calling me out for being a moron, I had my first jab, they had a barcode on the wall, scan this to book your second, I did, it asked when I had my first jab, which was that day, I put that information in and I was given a date. When I went to get vaccinated, I had to show my certificate with the date on it to the person at the front desk. And then I had to give the date verbally to the nurse who administered the vaccine. I thought all these people knew more than I did, so I wasn't questioning it. And I didn't know that there was they keep changing, the ranges of when you can have first and second jabs. They were different at the start. So I didn't know. And I assumed that they wouldn't have done it if it was good. But when we looked online, it said, not only will your vaccine not work at all, because you need the antibodies in your system to be at a certain peak in decay for it to take. So I essentially have only had 1 jab, even though I've had 2. But 14 days is a legal cutoff. So my vaccination isn't even legal. It's not even legally recognised. And I spent the whole morning phoning around agency after agency, government agencies, trying to find information, only to be told no one knows. I even phoned the healthcare provider to be told, we don't know. And the CMO of this healthcare company, which I'm not going to name because I just think if you're doing something 900,000 times, you're going to get it wrong. Any manual process you're doing that many times, you're going to get it wrong. It's a way of the world. People will say, oh, see, it all went wrong. I'll happily go through the rest of my life with a 1 in 900,000 chance of things going wrong, thanks. So this guy phoned me up and he said, yes, 14 days is a legal cut-off, so it won't be recognised. So they'll actually be contacted by the government because these are official figures. So the government will contact them saying that you've vaccinated someone under the registered time frame. And also, I now have to, with Sydney out of lockdown, I now have to wait 28 days for my third jab. And it definitely won't work. But when I come out of this, I'm going to be like Will Smith in Legend. And you're all going to be getting this Godzilla COVID that hasn't reared its head yet, but will be coming out of some far-fetched island and laying waste to the world. And I'll be walking along with my Alsatian at the end and my German Shepherd and a barren cityscape where deer and so forth are roaming the streets because I have this super triple vaccine. And like one of the kickers of this really was that I got so sick from the second jab. And it wasn't quite like flu. I had a really horrible taste in my mouth for a while. My heart was pounding. I was very hot. I was really uncomfortable. I felt like crap. But it didn't even matter. I've just got to do it again. So I'm hoping that I will be super vaxxed by the time this is over. But I do actually now have a medical certificate because I had to even come and do this show. Because, it's very strange. So we've got Freedom Day. Our politicians love something like Freedom Day. Of course, the new guy couldn't wait to have a can of beverage in the manner of Scott Morrison and all of this. What a load of crap. Freedom Day in the UK was all restrictions lifted for all people. We lifted like 10% of restrictions for most people. Like we haven't really... this isn't Freedom Day. We haven't lifted all restrictions like they did in the UK. Why are you grabbing hold of their word? Obviously, because it looks good on the soundbite. And the press are being, blue sky puff pieces about it. But here's my take. I reckon that we're going to have more lockdowns in Sydney. And this is the reason. There are three compelling things going on here for me. Well, for one, a lot of people have rushed to get their second jab just before lockdown ended on Monday. It doesn't work for 2 weeks. 2 weeks after you have your second jab is when the vaccine starts working. So there's a lot of people that are going to be roaming around. And in my case, at first, I haven't gone down the American route of suing them. Not yet. I'm waiting. I'm waiting to sell my blood. I think I'm going to get a lot of money for my blood. But the worst thing about mine, at first I was really angry because I thought, oh God, I've missed, a whole month more of lockdown for me and everyone else is out. Even though I've had a cushy time of it through lockdown compared to people that have lost their jobs. But then I got really worried because I was thinking, I would have been out there for a few months unvaccinated, thinking I was vaccinated. So what happened, if I'd have, virtually everyone in ICU now in New South Wales is unvaccinated. What happens if I ended up in ICU and died because of that? That's pretty scary. So you've got this group of people now that are not past the 2 weeks who are going to get the virus. Now, the fastest two growing groups of people getting the virus at the moment are people under the age of 40 and, scarily, people under the age of 10. Now, when we relieve these, the conditions of being under lockdown, people are going to start spreading this virus like wildfire. The notion being that they won't get as sick because they're vaccinated. So they're going to be spreading it everywhere. And there are these two groups that are picking up faster than anything else are the least vaccinated people. Now you think about this. You go down the pub, you can do all your things. You go home and your 10-year-old isn't legally allowed to be vaccinated. And this is where it gets scary. Because no kids under 10 are vaccinated and their parents are going to be going out and mingling and taking the illness home. So when you've got a large proportion, most people vaccinated are over 40. When you've got a large proportion of people under 40 working in hospitality and being in contact with all these people, and then you've got these people going home to 10-year-olds that aren't vaccinated, and they made sure that they picked a figure of over 16s to choose their 70% of people, which is probably closer to something like 60% of eligible people, which is over the age of 12. So less than that, including people under the age of 12. They've got too few people vaccinated too quickly, and they've got too many people that are vulnerable in the community that will now be getting it because there are so much more people mingling around and spreading it. So I think there's every chance that we will be going through lockdowns, and there are some slight chances of some really horrible death tolls amongst children and certainly under 40s. So that's my take on the whole thing. Billy 2 vax, but no vax. That's me.